Welcome to Advocacy Politics Unplugged, the show that will dissect critical policy issues, explore the art of advocacy, and share insights on how to make your voice heard in today's ever-changing political landscape. I'm your host, John Ravitz, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Business Council of Westchester. We're very thankful to our sponsors, Con Edison and Verizon. Con Edison customers, are you looking for an efficient way to heat and cool your home? Consider geothermal heat pumps. These innovative systems turn energy from the ground around your home into cooled or heated air for climate control, providing you significant energy savings and year-round comfort. Con Edison is dedicated to sustainability and helping customers save. That's why they offer incentives for installing geothermal heat pumps. Eligible homeowners could receive rebates that significantly lower their upfront cost. By choosing geothermal, homeowners won't just save money, they'll also reduce their carbon footprint and contribute to a cleaner environment. To learn more about geothermal heat pumps and available incentives, visit coned.com/geothermal. It's a smart choice for both homes and the planet. Don't just connect your business, make it even smarter. Partner with Verizon to gain the control, security, and speed to overcome challenges and adapt in real time. Verizon's cutting-edge networking technologies can help you build a strong, agile foundation for your organization. They help schools and small businesses access the essential technology they need to compete in today's digital world and are on a mission to help solve some of the biggest challenges the world faces today by leveraging their technology, innovation, and people. Verizon is working to open doors for many communities through digital skills training, grant opportunities, and more. To protect the planet for future generations, they're investing in renewable energy and improving the efficiency of their networks through the power of technology and shared knowledge. Verizon is helping people build the confidence to change lives for the better. Today, our guest is Ciara Mulligan, who's the Advocacy Manager at Feeding Westchester. We at the Business Council of Westchester are so proud that Feeding Westchester is a member because of the important services that they provide. But let me share a little about Ciara's background. After graduating, she began her career in public service as a constituent coordinator for a New York State Senate member, where she discovered the profound impact that government and community organizations can have when working together. That experience sparked a deep belief that public service and the nonprofit sector are powerful forces for change, a belief that has guided her career ever since. For the past 5 years, she has been part of the Feeding Westchester team, growing from a supporting role through development and into her current position managing the organization's advocacy efforts. In this role, she helps lead government relations and policy work at the local, state, and federal levels. Ciara, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we already know now, I know now that we have one thing in common. I started my career in public service as a constituent service for a member of Congress. So you really do get to see that all politics is local, but also more importantly, the work that each elected official's district office has helping their constituents in their community.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I started off at state government not really understanding what I could do outside of government. And as you know from experience, sometimes government can be a little limiting on the resources. So I noticed that our office was really depending on our local nonprofits to fill those gaps for some of our neighbors. And I started thinking when I was looking at new opportunities, how can I be a part of that impact? And I found Feeding Westchester. And for those who are listening and might be unfamiliar, Feeding Westchester is the county's largest food bank. We partner with 175 local community pantries and programs to get food to our neighbors. So that way, I joined as a supporting role, as mentioned, did some fundraising, but with the background of government, I really saw a need for more advocacy, government relations, and policy work in our organization. So I'm lucky enough that I'm part of a team that saw value in that, and I'm able to lead those efforts now.
Before we get into some of the important issues that you're facing, just again, the partnership that Feeding Westchester has with their partners throughout the county, how does that work?
So think of a food bank, Feeding Westchester, as sort of a large hub. We have a warehouse in Elmsford, New York, where we source, purchase, and receive donated items. Then we have trucks that go out into the community to our partner sites, and we drop off food there. So then they pack bags on their site. They have a line. They have a distribution. So neighbors are going to their local pantry for their needs and not necessarily our warehouse.
And the supplies that you get, the food that you get that are in your Elmsford factory warehouse, How does that happen?
So great question. A lot of people think a food bank is just distributing donated goods. And while that's a part of what we do, we purchase a lot of food through federal funds, through state funds, through county and local funds. So most of what we actually distribute, which to give you an idea is 21 million pounds of food a year, is from federal and state funding.
21 million pounds of food, that says a lot. And I think one of the things that I know has always been a challenge for non-for-profits who represent constituents in Westchester County is some people think that Westchester County is this very affluent community. And yes, there are some areas that are that, but there are a lot of areas, whether it's in our urban centers or in our northern parts of the county, that we have folks who are living under the poverty level.
Yep. 1 in 3 households in Westchester County are at risk of hunger. And I always leave people with that stat because it's easy to imagine 1 in 3, right? And that doesn't mean, you're homeless necessarily. It means you're working 2 to 3 jobs and you can't make ends meet. I mean, we all know the cost of living is so high right now, especially in Westchester County. And like you mentioned, when we say there's need here, people say, really? In Westchester County? And we say, yes. Look past your own bubble in your neighborhood. Look at the neighbors that are living outside of your street. And even if not, some people on your street might be struggling and you don't know. So a lot of folks come to us who are really hardworking, young families, veterans, seniors on fixed incomes who worked a whole lifetime. They retire, they realize it's not enough.
And a lot of your workforce, I mean, obviously, Feeding Westchester has a team that's there 7 days a week, but you also rely on volunteers as well.
That's right, especially our business community. So we have a lot of corporate partners that come in. I encourage anybody listening to check that out because we have really good opportunities for teams to come in, learn about our warehouse, our mission, and also bond while giving back to the community.
This is Advocacy and Politics Unplugged, part of the BCW Podcast Network, sponsored by Con Edison and Verizon. And our guest today is Ciara Mulligan, who's the Advocacy Manager at Feeding Westchester. So now we've learned a little bit more about the mission of Feeding Westchester, the number of people that you supply, as well as the amount of food that you provide to residents throughout the county. Let's shift now to some of the challenges. Because you're dealing with 3 levels of government, county, state, and federal level. And administrations change. Mm-hmm. And as we saw this last year in Washington, there were a lot of concerns regarding the SNAP program and other federal programs. But more importantly, when the government shutdown occurred, you guys were impacted quite a bit.
Yeah, so I want to go back almost a year next week. We'll mark the passage of H.R. 1. That included historic cuts and changes to the SNAP program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. And what that means is less food to those who need it, because we saw throughout the government shutdown when SNAP funds weren't being administered to folks, they turned to their local pantry and their local food bank, which put pressure on us. And we're already operating with less because we had some scale backs at the federal level too. I will note, as we talk about these things, it can feel really heavy and negative, but we're really lucky to live in a state as such as New York because they stepped up in a huge way. Our governor and state legislature really saw the need for increased state funds to uphold these state nutrition programs while the federal government is scaling back.
And we were proud at the Business Council of Westchester. We made that one of our legislative priorities to really make sure that our state delegation members, as well as others, understood the need for them to step up. But, people hear SNAP, and you gave the full verbiage of what that stands for. Talk to us just a little bit about the importance of that type of program and what it means to organizations like Feeding Westchester.
Yep. So SNAP is not, I'll say in the media, it's easy to hear, food stamps, folks who aren't working, who are taking advantage of the system. And that's actually quite the opposite of what this program is. A lot of our folks on SNAP benefits are working already. They're supporting young children. They're seniors who are, like I said, we're on fixed income. And I just want to note as well, the minimum SNAP benefit right now is $23 a month. So we have neighbors who are receiving just that $23 a month. So,
and when you think about $23 a month,
you can't go out.
That's one meal, if lucky. And if you're a family of 2 or 3 or 4, right. How do you even spread that around?
Right. You and I couldn't go to lunch right now with $23. So when we look at what happened during the government shutdown, is this program millions of Americans relied on was taken away in 2 seconds. So it's not that, necessarily the program is broken. It's we're not paying folks enough to support their families. I mean, these are really hardworking people.
So when you talk to legislators, we don't have to name names of who they are, and you explain that to them, and you just really lay out the numbers and actually basically challenge them maybe to say, could you and your family survive on $23 a day? What kind of response did you get? Were people shocked that that was what the number was?
So we do get a lot of wide eyes when we say the minimum is $23 a month. However, we're really lucky in Westchester to have members who get it. Mm-hmm. They know that nobody can survive off of $23 a month, and they know that folks who need SNAP benefits are there because they really need them. They do get the need here in this county.
Our guest this afternoon is Ciara Mulligan, who's the Advocacy Manager at Feeding Westchester. So we talked about SNAP, but there are some other important programs that I know you've been advocating for on both the state and the federal level. Can you give us a little info on that?
So the state budget just passed, although late, as we know.
Latest in decades.
We were thrilled to see that the governor really stepped up and increased funding for the HIPNAP program, which is the Hunger Nutrition Assistance Program here in New York State. And that program allows emergency food providers like Feeding Westchester and food banks across the state to purchase millions of pounds of food. And that's fresh food that we're getting out to our neighbors. So we saw a significant increase in the budget for HIPNAP. We saw flat funding for Nourish New York, but an important program to mention because it's funding from the state to emergency food providers that we can purchase fresh produce directly from New York farmers. So food banks are able to support the farmers are able to support neighbors. It's a great state-run program. Some other programs that received increased funding was NOEP. That's the Nutritional Outreach Education Program, which is especially important right now because that funding allows SNAP coordinators to do more outreach and get folks who should be on SNAP and qualify for SNAP applied and throughout that process. Another thing I'll plug is the state really made an investment and included funds. I'm unsure of the time frame, but to transition SNAP EBT cards to have chip security because we saw a lot of theft of benefits in the last couple of years of folks getting their cards skimmed. So just like any of us now, our debit cards have that chip security, SNAP EBT cards will have that as well.
And some of these programs actually, yes, they're giving food that people can bring to their homes, but there's also the issue of kids who go to school and that's probably the only meal that they get, or unfortunately, maybe the most nutritious meal that they're going to get all day. How are you engaged in that area as well?
So I'd love to plug, it wasn't this budget, but last state budget, we passed universal school meals here in New York, which was huge. And that was a really great partnership between us and the Westchester delegation who really saw value in this program. So right now, every school, every student, regardless of income, background, is able to get a free breakfast and lunch at school. Feeding Westchester steps in because we realize outside of the school year, like you just mentioned, kids are going home and they don't know where their next meal is. So we have programs with local community centers that provide summer programs and feeding programs. We do take-home bags for students to be able to have a meal when they come home. So we really try to ramp up those resources throughout the summer.
So we've talked about a few programs that fortunately did get some support on the state level. Obviously, still the challenges that are happening in Washington. But you as an advocate, and as you as who are leading the advocacy charge for Feeding Westchester, what kind of tools did you know that you had to have to go in when you met with legislators or when you met with a delegation to really give them the intel that they need? Because I know as a former assembly member, the best way that I could make a case is if I could go into our conference, for a meeting and say, folks, these numbers don't lie.
Yeah. So data drives decision making, but stories really make impact. So we always try to come in with district-specific data. Listen, this is the amount of constituents we're seeing in your district at our distributions each month. This is the poundage that's going into your district. Here's the need. But let me tell you about somebody in your district who shared their story with me. And I'll share one quickly here. I met somebody recently in Tarrytown. She was actually volunteering at the pantry she utilizes because she wants to give back to those who give to her. She is raising 2 young kids. Her husband works full time, but at the end of the day, when they pay all their bills, there's just not enough to put food on the table. She's also going back to school part-time to hopefully get a great job. So it's the stories that stick with people. And it's not, I like to tell those stories because it's painting the picture of who we're actually talking about. When you're making those decisions in DC or Albany, here's the food you're taking away from people. And this is who it's impacting.
And on the flip side, here are the people who are going to help to improve the quality of their lives.
Exactly.
So that they can be more self-sufficient, but more importantly, have that foundation in place that you want to do. So data drives everything. Where do you get the data from?
We have great dashboards at Feeding Westchester, so we're lucky to have that. Our partner network has to report out every month how many people they served, how many families. We take that, we create like snapshots of that data, and we're able to pull one-pagers per district, actually, for both congressional districts, state senate, and state assembly.
And, at the Business Council of Westchester, we're part of numerous statewide coalitions. And it really does make a difference when a legislator sees a statewide coalition representing organizations from Brooklyn to Buffalo.
Yes.
Because it then shows that this is not an isolated issue that these coalitions are talking about. It's a statewide issue. You're part of a statewide coalition. How does that coordination work?
Yeah, so we're part of Feeding America, actually, for those who don't know. And through Feeding America, we have a state association that represents all 10 food banks.
And Feeding America, obviously, is the national.
That's right, nationwide.
Right.
About 250 food banks throughout the country. 10 of them being in New York, us being one of them. And it's great because, like you said, we get to walk into rooms in Albany and we say, our Buffalo folks are seeing this, our New York City folks are seeing this. We're in the middle of that. There's not one part of the state that's untouched by hunger and food insecurity. We're also part of other coalitions that have specific focuses on legislation that we might be advocating for. So there's one big message is better than a bunch of singular. So we always say advocacy is better when we have a lot of voices. And,
obviously it sounds like our state legislator and obviously Westchester County, we're very fortunate that we have such members of our delegation play such key leadership roles in Albany. We have the Senate Majority Leader. We have the chairman of the Assembly Ways and Means Committee, the chair of the Assembly Health Committee, the chair of the Senate Education Committee, as well as other chairs. Do you work directly with their offices as well? Because, again, as long as they're holding those positions, they can use their bully pulpits as well to help your cause.
We do. And, going back to pre-Feeding Westchester, having relationships with offices and their staff is really important. So you don't necessarily need the member in front of you every time. If you develop those relationships with staff, which we have at Feeding Westchester, it's a really great way to information share throughout the year. And I always say, budget's great to really hone in on your asks, but throughout the year, you should be cultivating those relationships so they understand your mission, your need, the work you do.
And I think that's really important. Obviously, the legislative session just ended earlier in June. They don't go back unless there's a crisis, an emergency, really till January of 2027. So now, as they are back in their districts, what are some of the advocacy tools that you want to continue to do to continue to strengthen that line of communication?
Yep. So during the summer, when everybody's back in district, we like to remind folks that they're welcome in to come check out our warehouse, to do a tour. September is Hunger Action Month, so we'd like to do certain initiatives or campaigns during that time. There'll be more information for some of our electeds to get involved this September. And then I'd love to plug, since we're members of the BCW LEAP program, your advocacy program, in November. This will be our third one I think we're doing this year. We gather the state legislature before they head back to Albany, and we do a budget forum. So we lay out the issues, we give them an update on hunger in this county, and that's been really successful because then when they see us in Albany in January, they're like, we know what you're here about, and that's a good thing.
But I think that's also an important advocacy tool, having that really not only the strong relationship, but showing that you're not just here in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
That you're continuing to talk about the issues, hopefully so that they don't develop into a crisis type situation.
Yeah, and during the government shutdown, we really saw that strategy work because instead of during crisis mode us reaching out to these members, they were actually calling us, checking in. How are you doing? What do you need? What can I do for you?
Our guest today is Ciara Mulligan, who is the Advocacy Manager at Feeding Westchester. All right, so as I said, the session's over in Albany. We now can take a breath. We have to get through the election crazy campaign seasons as well. But you're obviously gearing up. As you talked about, we will gladly co-host that budget briefing in the fall with our delegation members. But there's some other programs and challenges that might not have been addressed in this legislative session, or just there wasn't enough time, because for those of you who don't know the Albany craziness of this year, the budget was passed almost 4 months late, and then they literally only had 4 days after the budget was passed to finish all the work they did before they adjourned. So talk to us a little about some of the priorities that you want to see. Let's take all levels of government, on the federal side, the state side, and also on the county side.
So right now, the federal government is really setting the tone for a lot of other advocacy, because as we know, the decisions that are being made federally are trickling down and affecting our state budget, our county budget. So we're really looking to see what we can do at the federal level that will alleviate at the state and county level. A couple things I'll mention is in that HR 1 bill that was passed about a year ago, SNAP cuts included some shift to the states and counties for both an administrative cost share and a benefit cost share. And without getting too much in the weeds, that's going to shift a significant amount to the county budget in October of 2026 for the administrative costs, and then even more significant amount to the state budget in October, believe it's 2027 or 2028. So we're looking at the state and county in a way that we can really ask them, what do you need from us to lower payment error rates? And that's a whole other conversation. But that'll really set the tone on what we're looking at next year for the state budget and the county. And
I appreciate you not wanting to get into the weeds, but I think it's important for our listeners to understand that even when Washington does pass funding streams for programs, there's a process. Mm-hmm. It has to then go from the federal government to the state government and sometimes to the county government before your offices even see that, correct?
That's right. And I feel like we're all learning in real time with each other, too. We've often, in this past year, said, wait a minute, we saw this change at the federal level. Let's call our state reps. Let's call the county DSS office. Let's all figure this out together so we can best serve the neighbors that we are.
And I want to go back to something you said at the beginning, because I think it is important for businesses to become more engaged in this process, because hunger is, again, not an isolated situation for families and communities. Talk to us a little bit more about what some of the experiences have been when businesses say, you know what, we'd love to bring our employees in for a day to help your staff.
Oh, yeah. We have great corporate partners, and they come back time and time again because it's so impactful. A lot of those team members will say, I didn't know Feeding Westchester existed. I didn't understand the scope of the work you were doing. And because I came here and packed for the day, I now get it. So that's our favorite comment to get, because the more we talk about hunger in Westchester County, the more people will understand that there's need everywhere.
And I've been to some of these where folks aren't just sitting at a chair being talked to. You actually put them to work.
Yeah, that's right. We even have our state delegation come in and pack with us so that they can touch that produce that they're giving funding for to us for.
And I think, again, unfortunately, we don't have video on this, but when you go to your facility and you just go into that warehouse, and I know you actually had some capital improvements made to actually give you more space and your team more space. It is incredible to see the number of pallets,
yes,
all lined up in different areas for different types of food and the protection. That's also a thing that obviously I think is important for folks. You have to care for the food that now are sitting in your warehouse, and how does that work?
Yeah, we have about, I think our warehouse is about 67,000 square feet post-expansion, and that allows us to store more fresh produce. We expanded our cooler space and our freezer space, and that's really the important piece. We need to keep this produce as fresh as possible. It's really in and out quite quickly, but that's our main priority, is storing and making sure, and that's funding we get from the state and federal governments as well, to be able to store and distribute this food.
If businesses who are listening to this would like to get involved and have their employees help out, what's the best way for them to reach out to Feeding Westchester?
Yeah, we'd love to have you in with us. Please check out feedingwestchester.org. But I'm on the member list of BCW with my email, so happy for anybody to reach out directly.
And we encourage businesses, whether you're a member of the BCW or just listening from any any part of the region to get engaged and get involved. Our guest this afternoon has been Ciara Mulligan, who's the Advocacy Manager at Feeding Westchester. Ciara, thank you, one, for the work that you do every day, for the services that you provide and Feeding Westchester provides for families to really not only make a difference in their lives, but to give them hope. And I think that's something we all want to continue to thrive for, to give people hope that they're not alone and they're not going to be ignored when they have these situations. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thanks for the continued partnership.
We love it. This is John Ravitz. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Business Council of Westchester. You're listening to Advocacy and Politics Unplugged, part of the BCW Podcast Network. And again, thank you to our sponsors, Con Edison and Verizon.
Be sure to check out the BCW Podcast Network's expansive lineup of shows: Leadership Unleashed, What's Trending, Advocacy and Politics Unplugged, the Member Spotlight, and Nonprofit Voices of Impact. The Business Council of Westchester is the county's largest business membership organization focusing on economic development and advocacy. With over 1,100 members, it is our mission to work for the profitability of our members and the prosperity of the Westchester community. To learn more about the Business Council of Westchester, please go to thebcw.org.